It's Labor Day. What are you doing watching the news? What am I doing the news? All right, well, if we're both here, let's talk about how work has changed, putting employees in charge like never before. Let's talk about why Americans seem to love unions, even if they're not in them. Let's talk about someone new to America, starting over.
I really worry about my family, and I hope to find a way for them as well.
And let's talk about this heat. How much of it's climate change? How much is a change in how we measure the weather? On this Labor Day edition of Next. Here we are talking labor on Labor Day, 2 years since the most dramatic shift in work culture we've seen in our lifetime. You'll hear employers call this the age of the employee, or the Great Resignation, or the era of quiet quitting. Our Steve Staker's got no quit in him, working Labor Day to learn how businesses are trying to hold on to employees.
What's the state of the workforce on this Labor Day 2022?
If I had to use a word, I'd say that it's dynamic.
Allie Boyd would know. She's an executive coach training today's bosses to lead today's workforce. A workforce, she says, has been changing for a long time, only accelerated by the pandemic.
It was sort of a splash of cold water. I mean, it was a wake-up call for a lot of us. Having maybe work bleed into personal life in ways that it has never before, bringing the technology of like work into home has also meant that now home life is a lot less sacred, and some of what's going on at home comes to work in a different way.
All of that sudden change gave employees a reason to reflect.
Thinking about, wow, what actually is most important to me? How do I want to spend my time? How am I spending my energy? For the sake of what am I doing what I'm doing?
For so many employees, work isn't just about a paycheck anymore.
Some of the expectations of what work can do and is doing, what work means for me, has shifted as well.
Which explains the exodus we've witnessed over the last year or so and the so-called Great Resignation. Boyd says leaders have to adapt.
If leadership ever was about, control, direct, manage, it's no longer about just that. It's really about how do I create an environment where people can develop, thrive, grow.
She says the number one question she gets from executives she works with lately is how do you retain workers at this unique time? The answer? Build a culture that's about more than just the task at hand.
People's expectation of work, their tolerance for, having less reward at work or not being sort of like emotionally satisfied or having a lot of meaning in their workplace, that has really shifted.
So how long will employees hold the cards here? Boyd told me that she has no crystal ball, but she thinks that a lot of the culture changes at work we've seen lately are here to stay. NPR reports about 4 million people have been quitting their jobs each month around the last year, even amid inflation and the economy starting to slow down. So many people are walking away from something that they were just kind of doing before to get a paycheck, looking for something more meaningful.
And people are looking for something different out of their employer than they used to, and what might have one day kind of passed for, oh, this is a cool, fun place to work, isn't cutting it anymore.
Yeah, like, the days of let's throw a ping pong table in at work and that'll boost morale, or like a pizza party every now and then, like here's a burrito, here's a breakfast burrito.
Here's a breakfast burrito.
You're appreciated. No, people are looking for more of like the rewards at work, knowing that what they're doing is making a difference and seeing some sort of pathway to growth to kind of get to the next point.
Makes a lot of sense. Steve, thank you. So now let's talk about the state of unions in America these days. Union membership has been on the decline for decades, but public support for unions has not been higher in 50 years. New Gallup poll found 71% of Americans say they approve of labor unions. That is the highest recorded approval rating for unions since 1965. Numbers have been steadily rising since support dropped below 50% in 2009. Union wins have been in the news recently. I mean, Starbucks, a big one, Amazon as well. The National Labor Relations Board says workers in more than 200 Starbucks locations have voted to unionize, and that includes a handful of stores in Colorado. The pandemic's also a factor. Researchers say the change in the balance of power, giving workers more of a strong voice, has made it easier for unions to form at some big companies. May I make a recommendation? I want to point you toward somebody else's reporting that I read today I think is worth your time. So this weekend marks the start of the traditional pre-election season, and the Colorado Sun had a great piece of reporting today on our Senate race. You'll hear Republicans suggesting that Joe O'Dea has a real good shot at beating Democratic Senator Michael Bennet. But the Colorado Sun notes that neither party is spending money here like this race is competitive. Jesse Paul and Sandra Fish report that only $9 million in TV ads have been aired or reserved so far. $9 million. Compare that to $46 million in ads by this time in the 2020 race between Senator Cory Gardner and former Governor John Hickenlooper. The national money that would typically flow in if this was a close Senate race is not being spent here yet. We have a link to the full article on the Next Facebook page and on my Twitter feed as well. It's been just more than a year since U.S. forces left Afghanistan and Kabul fell to the Taliban. The chaotic withdrawal left families scrambling to escape. Some came to Colorado. Our Katie Eastman sat down with a woman starting over.
When Fatima Samim's family got to Colorado, her boys wondered, where was Spider-Man?
He thought maybe when he arrived here, we will meet the Superman or superheroes. But still he is asking, Mom, why we don't go to America?
Even though the superheroes haven't been spotted, Samim's family has been in Aurora since July. After a year-long journey, they can't forget.
Always they are asking why we left everything in Afghanistan. We didn't bring anything with us.
Before the Taliban took over, Fatima was the dean of the School of Civil Engineering at Herat University.
I never thought that I will leave Afghanistan. It's really difficult to talk about this.
Difficult because the life she worked so hard for is gone. Only her male colleagues remain in Herat.
Here I don't have any career here.
In Afghanistan, a master's allowed her to work her way up in academia. But in the U.S., she needs a PhD.
Now I start from the zero. I start everything from the zero.
Fatima will start by getting her certifications to be able to work as an engineer here. And she hopes a recent application to a PhD program in Arizona pans out.
Yeah, I have to work harder because I don't want to lose what I earned before.
Little do her boys know, their superhero is right here.
And I have to show for the whole world that women in Afghanistan, they are able to do anything.
And Fatima told me she and her family tried 3 times to get through the airport in Kabul when it fell to the Taliban, but each time the Taliban beat them and they didn't make it. Eventually, the U.S. National Academies of Sciences, Engineering, and Medicine, an organization she's done research through in the past, helped them get to Rwanda. She worked as an assistant professor at a university there until her family was able to come here on special immigrant visas this summer.
It's just got to be so scary for folks that have family or close friends who were not able to escape.
Yeah, her parents are still there, and she told me that her dad was a senator, so he is especially still in danger.
Well, glad that she and her family, at least some of them, are here now. Thank you very much, Katie. The richest owners in the NFL have been throwing around quite a lot of money since they took over the Broncos. So you know what? What's another $9 million to buy the land under Broncos headquarters? Yes, I, too, was today years old when I learned that the Broncos did not own Dove Valley. For the past 32 years, the Broncos have leased the land beneath Dove Valley. They owned the buildings, the training center, but they did not own the land itself. The Walton Penner Group just bought that land from Dove Valley Business Park Associates. Source tells our Mike Kliss doesn't necessarily mean the team's going to do anything differently out there. It's just changing the ownership of the land. So, of course, the Walton Penner Group came in, spent $4.65 billion to buy the Broncos, then quickly committed to Russell Wilson's new 7-year, $296 million contract. Rob Walton is worth triple the next richest NFL owner. Triple the next guy. Just something to keep in mind if they decide to ask you to pay for a new stadium. Hey, thank you for the boost that you gave Big City Mountaineers through your latest Word of Thanks microgiving campaign. Almost $17,000 to help that longtime nonprofit do something new. For decades, they've been taking groups of kids from underrepresented communities on adventures in the high country, build confidence, love of outdoors, that kind of thing. Now they're adding a Leaders in Training program to connect those young people with possible career paths in the outdoor industry, diversify that part of the business world. Your microgiving campaigns have raised $9.4 million for Colorado's nonprofits over the last 2 years. If you have an idea of a great nonprofit that could use our help, email me. next@9news.com. I read each and every one of these emails. I'll be back on Wednesday with a new idea. September's off to a steaming hot start. If you ever wanted to know, is the record-breaking heat due to climate change or change in how Denver records its weather? A new strategy to help Native American tribes when disaster strikes. And some dentists spent their Labor Day working to give people access to dental care they couldn't otherwise afford.
I got asked this morning, they're like, "Are you nervous?" I was like, "Nervous? I'm excited."
That's next. Thought you might be in the mood for a cool down. Summer was the third hottest on record for Denver. In September, not any cooler so far. These first 10 days will likely be the hottest start to the month ever recorded in Denver. Which leads us to tonight's next question. Ken Dubrovny says the temp at DIA tends to be hotter than at his house in the city and doesn't think DIA gets as much rain. So Ken wanted to know about our weather records and whether it's something more than climate change affecting the data. Ken asked if the new records for heat might have something to do with where the weather station is located. And he wanted to know if the Weather Service still keeps data from the old Stapleton Airport site. Ken, some good questions there. We've talked about this before as it relates to rain records and snow stats, not so much with heat records. Took your question to our meteorologist, Chris Bianchi.
Okay, so here's a question that we get literally all the time. Is the reason why we're seeing these warm summer temperatures, is it because of the fact that the official observation site is at DIA as opposed to the old Stapleton Airport, current Central Park? Well, I'll give you a quick summarization here. DIA is a little bit warmer than Central Park, but it's also significantly cooler than downtown Denver. Here's a look at those temperatures in summer of 2022 from this past summer. DIA about 1.3 degrees warmer than Central Park, but about 1.5 degrees cooler than downtown Denver. So way to think of it is DIA kind of splits the difference between Central Park, which is a bit more green, and downtown Denver, which is of course a concrete jungle. Now, here's another way to think of it. DIA since 2000 in terms of average summer temperatures is about 0.8 degrees warmer than Central Park / again, the old Stapleton Airport observation site. So there is a difference. DIA is a tick warmer than Central Park, but it's not the reason why we're seeing these exceptionally hot temperatures. The real reason, the world is getting warmer.
It's hot no matter where you were in Colorado today. 97 officially out at DIA, where we continue to keep score. Typically, we should be sitting in the mid-80s on this Labor Day. Not the case today. At least we weren't in record territory. 101, that was last set back in 2020. However, we are heading in that direction. It was sizzling up to the north. Triple digits in Fort Collins, Greeley this afternoon, 90s off to the eastern plains, even up in the high country, Kremling through steamboat with 100 degrees in Grand Junction. Get a load of this. Today marks our 61st day in the 90s, taking us to that number 3 spot for the top 5 years with the most 90-degree days. So I wouldn't be surprised. Wait till you see that 7-day forecast if we start to get a little closer to that number 1 spot. You can blame this ridge of high pressure that is anchored across the west for bringing us the heat and really the lack of moisture out there. It's going to continue to amplify over the course of the next couple of days. So that means the heat is on. 99 degrees on deck for us tomorrow. More triple digits across the northeastern plains, some 70s, 80s up into the high country and sizzling out to the west. Look at this. Smoky highs in the upper 90s, 99 on Thursday. So still so close to triple digits here in Denver. Finally, a storm system pushes in on Friday, drops those temps to the lower 80s. A secondary, stronger cold front arrives Saturday, 71 with a chance of rain. Bring it on. It can't come soon enough.
We know that climate change is fueling more intense disasters in our world. Wildfires, drought, flood, storms, and they can take a particular toll on Native American tribal lands in the West, where there may be fewer resources for recovery. So FEMA is changing its strategy to try and better support tribes after natural disasters. They're going to set aside $50 million in grants to help tribes deal with climate change and extreme weather. FEMA wants to find ways around cost-sharing issues that can keep tribes from even applying for that federal funding. FEMA usually does not pay for everything after a disaster. Local jurisdictions have to pay part of that bill. Sometimes tribal governments can't afford to pay their share. FEMA's going to try to find ways to cover those gaps. And they're also promising to start holding more of their meetings about disaster planning and response with tribal staff on tribal lands. It's a sign that calls for some creative crime prevention. The sign at the parking garage in Westminster says, "Prevent theft. Lock your car, take your keys, hide your belongings, fill a decoy purse with thousands of angry poisonous bees." The sign put up by Westminster Police caught Jennifer Caldwell's attention, who shared it with us. That's a good one, see, because you got to read close. You got to go all the way to the end. If you spot a sign you want to share with everybody else, email it to next@9news.com or give us a shout on Twitter with the hashtag HeyNext. Dental care can be so expensive.
Being my age, and I'm not on insurance right now, so it's kind of hard to pay for.
Today, some patients finally got the care they needed for free. And the most Colorado thing we saw today is the #1 solution to a #2 problem. Next. Hope that you got in a barbecue, maybe some pool time today. That's what Labor Day is about for so many people. But we also wanted to celebrate a group of healthcare workers who came in early on this holiday, and our Byron Reed was there.
For some people, going to the dentist's office can be stressful.
And they're like, "Are you nervous?" I was like, "Nervous? I'm excited." Hi, how's it going?
But for Chase Morgan, it's a visit he's thankful for.
They said that because I grind my teeth, I have to get 3 fillings basically repaired because they've been broken off over the years.
Morgan is getting dental work done at Reese's Dental and Braces. Today, patients can come in and get dental work like teeth cleaning and filling replacement for free. It's part of their event they call Labor of Love.
It's one of the things we do to give back to the community.
Jeff Adams is the company's CEO and says they understand that rising costs in the pandemic have made it difficult for many to get the treatment they need.
But we've had people that have had multiple teeth with a problem and come back every year to get their treatment because this is the only opportunity they have to get their dentistry taken care of. And dentistry has such a broad effect on your entire health.
The company has been providing free care to patients for the past 10 years. Adams says today, they'll treat more than 1,800 patients at their offices.
And if you don't take care of your mouth, you're going to have problems. And so this is our way to hopefully not only take care of dental problems, but make people more healthy altogether.
At least here, I think they know that this stuff is expensive, and a lot of people have families and newborns, and it's tough with the economy and jobs and stuff right now. It just helps people on all levels.
The hope is that patients like Morgan get the dental care they need.
You know, because nobody wants to lose their teeth, especially at such a young age. I'm only 30.
And make that next trip to the dentist's office less painful in the pocket.
The business is people, and they speak patient here apparently, and I believe it.
For Next, I'm Byron Reed.
At Labor of Love event started in 2011 at their Phoenix office, and since they've started, they say they've been able to see more than 500,000 patients. The most Colorado thing we saw today does not stink at all. It could, quite badly, but it doesn't. That and your feedback next. The most Colorado thing we saw today is a smart way to clean up after your dog and keep your car from stinking on the ride home. Naomi McMahon says her son Luke spotted this up near Breckenridge. Somebody obviously picked up after their dog on the trail but didn't want to carry those back in the back seat, so they pinned the bags to the back of the car with the windshield wiper. I like that. That is very wise. Different bags suggest they might have picked up after somebody else's dog as well. That's a good citizen. See something that catches your eye? Send it to us next at 9news.com. Ethan writes in tonight with some sartorial feedback. Says, as for the jacket, looks like he gave his kids a ruler, a red marker, and said, "Go nuts." Actually would be a cool idea for a jacket sometime. Dale says there are many of us who love the heat. Stop complaining about it every time it's reported. Dale, I love hot weather too, but imagining that this is going to be the coldest summer of my girl's lifetime because of climate change, no good, man. See you next time.